Inside this building sits a finished, empty set for the 2020 Juno Awards, a set that will never see lights, musicians, or awards. It's Thursday, March 12th, and this is the CBC Saskatchewan News live from Saskatoon. Hi, I'm Sam McKegg, live from the SaskTel Centre in Saskatoon. It was only a matter of time. The first presumptive COVID-19 case has been confirmed in Saskatchewan. The Provincial Health Authority announced it today. Alicia Bridges has been following the story and joins me now from our Saskatoon newsroom. Alicia, what do we know about this first presumptive case?
The person was a man in his 60s. He had recently travelled to Egypt and he returned back to Saskatoon on March the 6th. 3 days later, on the 9th, he was tested. Then late last night, he found out from authorities that they believe he had COVID-19. So they announced that publicly this morning. The man is now in self-isolation. And there are 2 paramedics and 4 firefighters in Saskatoon who are also in isolation. They responded to a call with a patient who was later tested for COVID-19, and they are now, they're still in isolation, but the fire chief says that because they didn't know until afterwards that this person was a COVID-19 risk, that they're now reviewing their processes.
There's a number of operational steps that we are reviewing right now. One of those is being the dispatchers and the questions they ask the patient or the caller for the patient. Those are things we're reviewing right now.
So you can see why that's so important. Obviously, the paramedics need to make sure that they're not exposed themselves.
So, Alicia, what advice is being given to the public?
Well, anyone with a cough or a fever is being told to stay home. Anyone who has symptoms they believe may be COVID-19 is being asked to call the health line. That's 811, but there are long waits for that health line. So the Chief Health Officer for Saskatchewan is now telling people only call if you have symptoms.
In future, we are looking at obviously the need for independent assessment sites that will also take the pressure off not just Healthline, but people may be going to the physician offices with general questions. So we are trying to ramp up the capacity to advise, assess, and test as the demand increases, and it is very important we do that.
So the Saskatchewan Health Authority has now asked for an action plan to help reduce the wait list or the wait loads, the waiting time for the Healthline 811. That action plan is due tomorrow. And now Saskatchewan, we're obviously expecting, or the Health Authority is expecting, that there may be future cases and that they will let the public know as soon as they know. Sam?
Thanks, Alicia. Now, this decision comes with many financial implications. The Junos were supposed to bring about $9 million into Saskatoon's local economy, and that's something that Saskatoon Mayor Charlie Clark says will have to figure itself out over the next couple of days. I caught up with him at City Hall a little bit earlier today to get some reaction.
Well, it's heartbreaking for a lot of people who've worked really, really hard to over a whole year to pull this event together. There was a huge amount of excitement about having a chance to show off our city. First time we've hosted the Junos since 2007, and there's been so much that's changed, and it's in many ways an exciting time. And so I feel for those people who worked really, really hard to get us to this point. And this very tough decision was made. I think, though, the overwhelming response that I've heard is people understand that this is the right thing to do under these very, very extraordinary circumstances.
When did you start thinking personally that maybe this event may not go ahead?
Well, I think for all of us, the unfolding nature of the COVID-19 situation has meant that there's been a monitoring and a watching. What I've really made sure we do is we listen to the health authority and the experts on this, and don't just make emotional reactions to the situation. So there was conversations, I would say, especially through the weekend, and then Monday, we had a very clear message from the health authority that they felt that the risk was continued to be very low, and that at that time could be very reassuring that it was in a space where it could move ahead. We had a press conference right here where that question came up. But things have changed very rapidly, and globally they've changed. And I think the public view of the situation has changed, and now that we also know we have a case in our community, that's changed things a lot too. And our main focus is the health, safety, and well-being of our citizens, and that needs to be number one right now.
A number of city facilities are mass gathering places. How are you determining if and or when some of those facilities will start closing?
So I'm really working closely with our Director of Emergency Management, Pamela Golden McLeod, who is working very closely with the provincial health authorities, health officers, and the Federal Public Health Agency of Canada. They are providing guidelines to this. What's important is that those guidelines and those directions get translated to people who are in this sort of situation where they're trying to decide what to do for their events. And we're going to work really closely with those anybody who has questions to provide the best information we can as they're making decisions.
Joining me now outside of Sasktel Centre is its Executive Director, Scott Ford. Scott is also the chair of the host committee for the Saskatoon Junos, which unfortunately were cancelled earlier today. This has to be a disappointment after so much work to get that bid.
Oh, it's extremely disappointing, but it's an understanding cancellation as well. You work a whole year. Our host organizing committee has been working for a whole year. We're all set up to go, including here at Sasktel Centre and all of our other venues that were going to be part of Juno Week. And because of COVID-19 and the coronavirus and how it's basically continues to heighten, with a case now being identified in Saskatoon, and canceling the event is a tough one for our entire committee.
So what happens now to the set, to the events, to all of those things that you were expecting to fill with people this weekend?
Well, we're basically going to tear it all down. It was all set to go, so we tear it down and we get ready for hopefully the next event. But on the Sasktel Centre side of things, we've been notified that both the Western Hockey League and the National Lacrosse League are both going to suspend play. So our next event is kind of in a wait-and-see mode. The coronavirus has also affected how those franchises and leagues are operating their business. So there was a lot of news, a lot of major events, a lot of large group gathering events, even concert-wise. AEG and Live Nation made statements. They're looking at postponing concerts in March and April. So a lot of things are happening with coronavirus, and it's affecting a lot of things. Juno is just one of them, which is sad to see.
I know you mentioned concerts being postponed. Celine Dion's supposed to be here in April. How far in advance are you going to start making those decisions?
Well, the process is that I'm sure Celine Dion's an AEG show. Their promoters are looking at it right now, and they haven't pushed any buttons yet, but we're waiting to hear from them. And it's likely that there's a good chance that show could be postponed as well. So again, it hasn't been postponed yet, so we'd be waiting to see what the promoter wants to do and wait until they give us the word on that.
Well, congratulations on a successful bid. I know this is not how we wanted to see it go, but thank you for joining us here today.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was great. And just hats off to our entire host committee, and hats off to Karis as well, and their entire Juno group, the artists and that. There's no winners here. It's a sad day for Canada's music industry when you can't host your award show, but I'm sure it'll go on, and we'll recover, I guess, next year.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Now, while all of this was happening, Premier Scott Moe has officially ruled out a spring election. The election is scheduled for October, but Moe could call it sooner. Health Minister Jim Ryder says the Premier wanted to put speculation to rest. Ryder says it's a challenge to pick the best date in the next 6 months.
At our first case today, we don't know how many cases we're going to have 3 or 4 months from now or 6 months from now. So that's one of the issues he's had to grapple with. We have a time frame the election needs to be called in. When would be the safest time to do it? And brilliant medical minds are telling us it's impossible to know.
Now the work ahead of us changes. We stop focusing on an election, which I just think is so wise. This is not the moment for partisan politics. It's not the moment to be shaking hands door to door.
Miley says the government will now be able to focus on the healthcare response and the economic impact. He's now calling on the government to create a bipartisan committee to provide clarity on COVID-19 planning. The Saskatchewan Teachers Federation says the government isn't respecting the bargaining process. STF sanctions are now in effect and all extracurricular activities across the province have been cancelled. But the day before sanctions went into place, teachers received a contract offer. It came directly from the government instead of funneling through the union. The STF says that's not how it should work.
It really doesn't show good faith bargaining, but regardless of that, it still the offer that they sent, it still focuses on salaries, and we think this is about class composition, and we're wanting classrooms and students to be properly supported across the province, and they seem to be forgetting that.
In a letter to teachers, the government says it feels its offer is fair and reasonable and is trying to balance its respect for educators with fiscal responsibility. The STF says sanctions will stay in place as long as they're needed. With this weekend's Juno cancellations around the city in Saskatoon, many music venues are now sitting empty. Our Junos correspondent, Christy Kleiman-Haga, joins me now. Christy, this has affected a lot of venues and musicians.
It sure has, Sam. I mean, quite the difference in just the last 24 hours. A lot of stages will now sit empty. Of course, the Juno Awards on Sunday, the big ticket item, the Junos Gala, where many of those awards are going to be handed out, of course, will not go ahead. But we will see also the Juno Fest concerts canceled over the next few days. Areas like Amigos, Louis, the Coors Event Center, over 14 venues across Saskatoon where 50-plus bands were set to play this weekend will now sit empty. I had a chance to speak with Kirby Wershenko, the executive and artistic director of the Broadway Theatre. Here's what he had to say in light of today's announcement.
This morning I got a call about half an hour before it went out public. Am I surprised? No, not that much, because there's some mammoth events in this last week that have decided to put their things on hold this year. So I've never run an organization as big as Caris and the Junos, and so I have 100% sympathy for them in having to treat this and deal with this quickly and effectively. We're behind them 100%. They are our partner. They've treated us with nothing but care and concern and respect, and so we respect 100% their choice to pull the event. But how do I feel when I get it? Disappointed. Everyone else is too, and the thing is, we're all on the same team. Whether it's the artists themselves, to me, are almost the biggest losers of the whole thing. Those are the people that we want to come together to celebrate the work they do. Whether we're a venue or a show buyer or a technician or an agent or a record label, we all exist around this little nucleus of an artist who lives a life, does this work, and pushes their art out on a stage or on an album. And so I'm sad for the artists, for sure, 100%.
Wershenko says he estimates between $15,000 and $22,000 will be lost at the Broadway Theatre from this weekend's events. Now, he does say that there is no plan as of yet to cancel future events at the Broadway Theatre, Sam.
Christy, how does this affect other industries that are expecting an influx of people this weekend?
Well, I had a chance to speak with the Juno's head chef, Dale McKay, who is saying that he is expecting quite a loss. He was expecting about 1,000 people to be coming through Saskatoon. Of course, other restaurants in the same boat. He says he's worried for the future of the restaurant industry over the next couple of weeks to even a couple of months to see how this affects them. He says he understands this decision and thinks it was the right decision. He wished maybe there had been a little bit more prep time, but generally, Sam, what we've been hearing from people across Saskatoon, both in the industry and just as fans, is that they understand and they're happy that public health is being put first.
Thanks for this, Christy.
You're welcome.
Stay with us. We'll have more reaction from artists related to the cancellation of the Junos after the break. Saskatchewan's Hunter Brothers are taking the Juno cancellation in stride. The band from Shaunavon is nominated for 2 Juno Awards, Album of the Year and Breakthrough Group of the Year. Their first Juno nominations, actually. And they caught up with Juno correspondent Peter Mills as they rolled into Saskatoon today.
Well, first, you were on the highway today, coming down for the Junos. How are you feeling about the whole experience as you were driving down?
Well, we've been excited for the Junos for a long time now. For many years, we have watched the Junos and known about the award winners, watched Canadian music, from growing up in small town Saskatchewan. Knowing that they were being held here in our home province, knowing that we got to be part of them in the capacity that we were planning on, we were extremely excited, and we have been excited collectively as a group and with our families for a long time.
So how did you get word, and where were you when you found out they were going to be canceled?
We were actually between Kyle and Rosetown. We were driving down the highway. I actually was bringing my family along for the weekend, and we had 3 different vehicles. We were carpooling together, and just got the word from management approximately, an hour and a half ago. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you came down to talk to us at least, but what were you thinking? Were you thinking about going back home? Like, what's going through your mind when you hear that?
Yeah, I mean, I think to say that we weren't disappointed would be a lie, because it is something that we've been so excited about, and I think broadly, when you look at all the work that's gone into it, the planning process, the multiple groups that are a part of it, and I think disappointment is a natural reaction to it. At the same time, we also understand that safety is of utmost importance, and so we stand behind the governing authorities and the ones that make these decisions. That's out of our hands. You have those mixed emotions, but at the end of the day, the safety aspect is absolutely the most important, and we stand by the decisions that are made.
How worried have you guys been throughout this process? Because I think worldwide, it's various degrees. Some people, just taking the simple precautions, but other people very worried about this. Like, how much were you thinking about this coming up to Juno Week?
Yeah, it's there's so many unknowns still a part of it. And I think that's part of the hard part about it, is that nobody has any definite answers, and it's something where everybody's trying to learn as much as they can, as quickly as they can, to take the precautions, and for us, we're trying to make calculated decisions like everybody is, and in these unknown times, we just need to support one another and be there for each other through the process, and whether that's in the music family, whether that's in the media family, whether that's in small communities and big communities and everywhere, it's so important to stand together side by side through difficult times, for sure.
Well, as we're talking right now, we don't know what's going to happen with the awards. We don't know if they're just going to email them out to us, or they're going to have a TV or a web broadcast or something. If you do win a Juno, you're going to have a party in Shaunavon just to the family. What are you going to do to make up for this?
Absolutely.
When the nominations came out, we were actually down doing a show and an event down in Mexico, and we had a little poolside party already. So we've already had that, and it's. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of excitement no matter what happens.
For sure.
Guys, thanks for this.
Thanks for having us.
For big-time stars, the Junos can be an every-year occurrence, but for local musicians, this could be an opportunity to get in front of audiences that have never seen them before. But with audiences comes mass gatherings, and that can put musicians in an awkward position. Earlier today, Blake Berglund and Belle Plaine were supposed to perform an outdoor concert. I caught up with Berglund after everything was canceled.
It was an extremely tough decision for everybody to come to, but I do commend our government, and I commend the Juno and their association for making that call go forward.
Going into this event, was it difficult to make a decision whether you'd perform or not with the threat of an outbreak?
It put us as musicians in a little bit of a pickle, as we had we had commitments to venues, we had commitments to promoters, we had commitments to the Junos. For us to take the responsible route and just pull out on our own would have forced venues, it would have forced fellow performers, it would have forced staff to pick up our slack. So we were in quite a predicament.
When you get up on stage in front of crowds, when you know that someone could be sick, is that a difficult decision to make, to go on each night?
I've never really had to face that, knowing that I can't get on stage because someone in the crowd might be sick. I've sang through sickness as if it happens regularly. That's sort of the duties that we have. But again, I think it's important to commend both the province and the Junos for this decision.
What would you like to see happen now?
I would like to see the leaders of both parties put a plan in action and work together. Now is not a time for any more finger pointing, and I know that happens regularly in the game of politics, but we have a doctor who's the leader of the opposition, and it's time for them to make a plan together.
How can people support specifically the local artists who might have got in front of audiences that had never seen them before this weekend?
Yeah, again, it was a wonderful opportunity that isn't going to go through. I just ask that the people that plan to come out, that do support the arts, go on the websites of the artists that they were looking to support, and merchandise is the biggest thing right now for us. So if they can purchase a vinyl or purchase a record, purchase a t-shirt, it goes a long ways.
Thanks so much for this.
Thank you, Sam.
Amid all the cancellations, one event did go off without a hitch last night. CBC Saskatchewan hosted a story to song contest. People submitted stories and 3 of them were selected to be turned into songs by 3 musicians. It was hosted at Bon Tom's restaurant in downtown Saskatoon. If you'd like to see more from the event, head to all our social media feeds. Stay with us. Fiona will have your weather after the break.
Welcome back. Well, this viewer photo accurately just shows exactly what the weather's like. It is windy. It's going to blow your toque off. Thank you so much for Jenna for sending us this great picture. Well, one of the things that we're going to be looking at is a real change in some of these temperatures. We've been getting very comfortable with all these warm spring temperatures. That Arctic air that's starting to push in is dropping our temperatures. We're looking for temps to hit down to the -20s overnight tonight, and there will be a wind chill in Saskatoon, making it feel like -30. Right now, -3 in Regina, -7 in Saskatoon, -8 in Prince Albert, and -2 in Maple Creek. The wind chill right now isn't a huge factor, but we're going to be doubling these numbers overnight. As the further north you go, that's where we're really seeing that Arctic air tonight. So that's going to be a bit of an issue. The wind is also going to be a big factor, gusting up and down all throughout the weekend, and it's in that southwest corner that's going to be a big issue. When we're seeing the snow arriving, that should be coming about Friday night, and with that, the wind is going to make visibility a really big issue. So right now we do have a winter storm warning for that southwest corner, looking between 10 to 25 centimeters of snow to start flying around tomorrow. Now, what we're going to be seeing is, this is tonight into tomorrow. It doesn't really hit too much. Then we're going to start seeing it on Friday, pushing through. It's just a little bit right in there. Cypress looks like the zone that's going to get hit the hardest. And then it starts to finally move into that Regina, Saskatoon area, starting about Friday night into Saturday, looking for about 2 to 4 centimeters of snow when it finally tapers off on Sunday. This is our wake-up weather for tomorrow morning. It's definitely cooler than we usually want. Right now, what we're usually looking for are overnight lows of about -9. So we're going to see temperatures much cooler than that. Definitely, we're going to be pulling out those parkas for the kids as they walk to school again tomorrow. Well, today we got to about -1 in Regina, -16 overnight. That sun is going to set at 6:58. It was -34 in 1951. The next couple of days, we're going to see a little bit of sunshine tomorrow. Tomorrow night, that snow starts to come along, and we're going to see that Saturday into Sunday. Sunday could be a little bit less than a centimeter of snow. In Saskatoon, we got to -5 today. Overnight low tonight, -21. With that wind chill, feel like -30. Usually we should be at -9. The sun will set at 7:06. A little less snow for you in Saskatoon, but we're still going to mark you at 2 to 4 centimeters of snow arriving on Saturday. And look at those overnight lows. They're definitely chilly and unseasonable. Back to you, Sam.
Thanks, Fiona. That is it for us tonight from SaskTel Centre in Saskatoon. For more on the cancellation of the Juno Awards and Juno Fest, and also what's happening with coronavirus, you can head to our website, cbc.ca/sask. Fiona will be back with more local news at 11, but for now from Saskatoon, have a good night.